So before going into a few plants that occupy, a few shrubs that occupy the serpentine chaparral here on Carson Ridge, let's just mention that California is the center of diversity for Ceanothus and Arctostaphylos. Arctostaphylos is the genus for manzanitas, and the diversity is centered here. Almost all the species are here. Same kind of deal with Ceanothus. Here we got Ceanothus jepsonii in the Cerastes tribe of Ceanothuses. You have the Euceanothuses and the Cerastes. The Cerastes have opposite leaves, corky stipules, which are right below the leaf, right? Those little corky things coming out below. You can see them right there on the stem, and more of a herringbone pattern to them, but the corky stipules and horns on the fruit. Cerastes means horned, so you get horns on the fruit, whereas with the Euceanothus is not horns on the fruit. The fruit are capsules which dehisce, but there's horns on the Cerastes, and you oftentimes get thicker, leathery, or not, these are kind of waxy, but they're just thick, a little bit brittle, and teeth on the margin a lot, holly-like teeth. With the Cerastes, with the Euceanothus, for example, Ceanothus thursiflorus, you get floppier leaves, softer leaves with prominent three veins going up the back pattern. But here we are with Ceanothus jepsonii, and this has become a serpentine specialist in California. Almost a serpentine, and basically a serpentine endemic. Behind it back there, you've got chamise, Adenostoma californicum, Adenostoma fasciculatum, its leaves are fasciculated like pine needles to reduce, that's the way it deals with moisture loss, and it's sort of the drought-tolerant king. Just a quick shot for Adenostoma right there. Adenostoma is not a serpentine endemic plant at all. It dominates the non-serpentine, dry, poor edaphic, slow habitats in California. But it gets into the serpentine because it can just do that sometimes. Up here you've got the Arctostaphylos montana, which is a non-burl forming manzanita, which is a rare plant because it only grows on the slopes of Mount Tam and adjoining ridges on serpentine, and is an obligate cedar, meaning it needs fire to regenerate. 2/3 of the manzanitas do this, and that may be a genetic advantage, or that may be an advantage in the long run, because you get a completely new genetic race or population that arises after the fire as the parents are killed, and that whole generation perishes essentially, as opposed to the burl forming manzanitas, which restump from the sprout, from the crown, from the root expansion, the burl, and are essentially the same plant genetically, and they are the same plant genetically. Over here we've got Quercus durata, leather oak, a serpentine shrubby growing oak in the white oak lineage, it looks like, because there's two lineages of oaks too, like we were talking about, the Euceanothus and the Cerastes, with corky. The acorn's cup is corky. It's got corks on it. It's not scaly, it's corky. Corky like Quercus lobata, valley oak, Quercus garryana, Gary oak, corky like Quercus douglasii. This is a non-deciduous oak, and you can tell it's got glaucous bluish-green leaves adapted to living in the habitats where the chaparral usually is, or serpentine chaparral usually is, because where the serpentine is exposed, it's usually a harsh, hot environment. Not usually, but can be. And this plant deals with that moisture loss potential by really curling its leaves over, way more so even than coast live oak, Quercus agrifolia. Some of the black oak lineage oaks in Marin are Quercus agrifolia, Quercus kalagii, Quercus wislasenzii, which hybridizes with Quercus kalagii to make oracle oak, Quercus marehus. But Quercus agrifolia is the keystone coast live oak that you know everywhere. And it's got revolute leaves always, with a slight indumentum on the underside. Let's check out the underside of this guy's leaf though. Yeah. Very, very, very hairy and fuzzy. And we've also got Picketingia montana right here, really showing up on Carson Ridge in the pea family, a shrub in the pea family that I'm helping do some work on right now for some botanists who are trying to figure out why some of the populations are, I mean, they're completely sterile or they're completely fertile. And on Carson Ridge and San Geronimo Ridge nearby, we found some seemingly fertile populations, but there might not be any other fertile populations in Marin County. This one's not right here. There's no peas, the classic pea pod legume of the family. This one's got purple papillinaceous classic pea flowers in the spring, and it's just lovely. Thorny little trifoliate leaves, which are kind of supple actually. Nothing too leathery about the leaves actually, but just so drought tolerant somehow, just stiff and spiny, angular. Keeping water in that xylem somehow, keeping water getting to those leaves. What are those stomata doing? I mean, there's not much hair on this one. This one's pretty glabrous. There's variation tomentosa in the south, which is way more fertile than this species, and these species these subspeciated some time ago, and why this is happening is sort of what these botanists are into. The species itself, or the branched off about 20 million years ago. So it's had a long time to get to where it's going. Same with this rock, right? This rock's had a long time, maybe 150 million years to get to right here where we're walking on it and saying, go Niners. Peace.